The video you're about to watch is a shortened extract from a longer video which I shall link to in the description below, but in this extract I look at key passages within British law and legislation that mean that we are all automatically exempt from paying any ULEZ or LTN fines. Please share this video and spread the word so that we can be free.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
If you want to keep up with some of the craziness that's going on in the world, then subscribe to Ryland Media's Twitter account, twitter.com/Ryland Media. Now there is a way out. There actually is a way out. And one of the things that I've been digging into over the last few months is some of the incredible protections that the British Constitution has. Now what is common law? Common law is law that evolved as a function of decisions by courts, but it's predicated on something else, which I'll tell you in a moment. Legislation are the rules, the statutes, the acts that are drawn by Parliament. Now, Parliament is meant to represent people, and there's an act, which I'll go into, which actually says that the Parliament can only produce acts and statutes that are consistent with our natural birthright and with common law. So you have common law, and then giving rise to, evolving from that, you have legislation, statutes, and then you have primary legislation, which is the acts of Parliament, and then statutory instruments, which means ministers can just change the rules and stuff, but they've given themselves that power within primary legislation, and primary legislation overrides statutory instruments and regulations and guidance and policy. But before that, you have common law, which, like I said, came about through decisions of courts and juries, right? But before that, you have natural law. People naturally assumed, of course they assumed, that they had the right to travel, they had the right to marry, they had the right to not be subjected to harm, to not be defrauded. Those are natural, inalienable, indubitable rights, and they form the basis of common law, and that form the basis of legislation. Now the Magna Carta is Latin for Great Charter, and this is from the UK Parliament website, and was first used in 1217. Now it was amended a few times, and it had 63 clauses. 4 of the clauses are still valid today. No free man shall be seized, imprisoned, dispossessed, outlawed, exiled, or ruined in any way, nor in any way proceeded against, except by the lawful judgment of his peers and the law of the land. So this means that we cannot be fined except where we've been found guilty of something by the judgment of our peers, i.e. a jury. So for example, a speeding ticket, a parking ticket, a ULEZ ticket, because this is still in effect. And then to no one will we sell, to no one will we deny or delay right or justice. So that you have the right to have summary, fast justice. It cannot be denied to you. You cannot just be found convicted of something or be liable to face a penalty without being convicted of something where you've been judged to be guilty of that offence by your peers. The Bill of Rights, 1688 Bill of Rights. This is also in effect. It hasn't been repealed or amended. All grants and promises of fines and forfeitures of particular persons before conviction are illegal and void. 1700 Acts of Settlement, which distinguishes law from legislation. The laws and statutes of the realm confirmed. And whereas the laws of England are the birthright of the people thereof, i.e. we are born with these rights. We're not given them by government. We already have them. All the kings and queens who shall ascend the throne of this realm ought to administer the government of the same according to the said laws, and all their officers and ministers ought to serve them respectively according to the same. The said laws, spiritual and temporal and commons, the House of Lords and the House of Commons, do therefore humbly pray that all the statutes and laws and statutes of this realm for securing the established religion and the rights and liberties of the people thereof, and all the other laws and statutes of the same now in force, may be ratified and confirmed. Essentially, what I think this is saying, and my oldie English is not that great, is that, one, it separates laws from statutes. So you have laws and you have statutes, and the two are distinct. But that the laws and the statutes have to be consistent with the birthright of people. Now let's go back to the Bill of Rights. No declarations or judgments, doings or proceedings to the prejudice of the people in any of the said premises or in any wise to be drawn hereafter into consequence. Now what I understand from this passage is it means that we can't have our rights prejudiced in any way whatsoever hereafter, so in perpetuity. And like I said, this hasn't been repealed, it hasn't been amended, it's still in force. And this bit, also in the Bill of Rights, that all and singular the rights and liberties asserted and claimed in the said declaration are the true, ancient, and indubitable rights and liberties of the people of this kingdom, and so shall be esteemed, allowed, adjudged, deemed, and taken to be, and that all and every the particulars aforesaid shall be firmly and strictly holden and observed as they are expressed in the said declaration. So these are ancient and indubitable rights and liberties of people, So they can't be taken away. They precede common law, they precede Parliament, they're before all of that, and they have to be allowed and taken to be, and they have to be held to and observed as they're expressed in this declaration, which is the Bill of Rights, 1688. Then there's this one, the Union with England Act 1707, and this was an act that joined the two kingdoms of Scotland and England. And Article 4, that all subjects of the United Kingdom of Great Britain shall from and after the Union have full freedom of intercourse, of trade and navigation to and from any port or place within the said United Kingdom and the dominions and plantations thereunto belonging, and that there be a communication of all other rights, privileges and advantages which do or may belong to the subjects of either kingdom, except where it is otherwise expressly agreed in these articles. Now the key bit here is that the subjects of the UK shall have full freedom in intercourse of trade and navigation to and from any port or place within the said United Kingdom. We have full freedom to travel around and to engage in trade as we wish to, according to this, the 1707 Union with England Act. And it hasn't been superseded or amended, and tie it in with the rights within the Bill of Rights, that we cannot be fined without conviction, and in the Act of Settlement, which says that all subsequent legislation has to be consistent with our natural laws, has to be consistent with our birthright. And there is no way government can take away our birthrights, because you can't have a situation where Parliament or any government can do whatever they like to the people. That is the pathway to tyranny. And the protections within the English Constitution, within the British Constitution, I think are such that they prevent that, because we can pretty much do whatever we want, provided we don't do harm to another, we don't defraud, and that we act openly and honestly. Then Article 25, that all laws and statutes in either kingdom, as they're contrary to any of the articles within, so the ones that are already in place, are going to be voided. But also, any laws and statutes that are contrary to the Act of Union shall become void. So that means any law or statute that restricts our movement. Now, the London Council and other councils aren't using statute to limit our movements. They're using secondary legislation. So like I said, you have natural law, then you have common law, then you have primary legislation, like laws and acts, legislation and statutes passed by Parliament. And in those legislation acts, they give themselves powers, statutory instruments, and the ability to create rules and regulations. It's this bit at the top that the local authorities are using to impose fines for LTNs and ULEZ. But it cannot override primary legislation. And this, the Act of Union, is primary legislation. The Act of Settlement is primary legislation. The Bill of Rights is primary legislation, but what that does and the Act of Settlement does is it enshrines in law our natural birthrights, which includes the right to travel, to move about, and to not be fined or levied any fine without conviction by a jury of our peers.